Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I like to wash my own cars. I remember the first time I owned a car, washing it like every single day. Probably wasn't good for it, but I know there's people out there who don't like to wash their own cars, take them to a car wash. Bunch of different things you can do. The old quarter car wash where you get out and wash it yourself, put quarters in the machine before it starts beeping at you. And of course, you can put your car on the thing and have it taken through the car wash. And so everything in between, right? Well, interesting story out of California, out of San Francisco. Woman's vehicle stolen from Concord Car Wash after employee gives keys to the wrong person. Tim Johns wrote this for ABC 7 News out of San Francisco. It's KGO. A nightmare situation unfolding for a woman at the Autopia Car Wash in Concord after a car was stolen in front of her very eyes. She said, "I'm hoping it was a mistake, but to me it was a pretty bad mistake." On July 20th, the woman took her car in to be cleaned. So she sat and waited for it to be finished, but when it was done, within the matter of a couple seconds, I watched my car drive off the lot. They gave my car keys to someone else. So what we're talking about here is a situation, and I've seen this before also. I had a friend who didn't want to wash the car herself, so she'd go to the car wash where it goes through on that track. When it comes out the other end, you pull into a little bay, you step out, hand the keys to somebody, and then they do it really quick, and they've got like a swarm of people who come in there. They vacuum the car, they clean the seats, they do the inside of the windows, they do the dashboard and all that stuff, do the outside glass, and then they also would very, very quickly give it a once-over with a polishing wheel and wax, and that costs some money. But like I said, there's 4 or 5 guys just zing, 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 zing. We were working on this car for like 15 minutes. And when it was done, the car looked great inside and out. So I suspect that's what she's talking about right here. So someone else walks up, they hand that person the keys, and they drive off with a car that's not theirs. She says that after the initial shock wore off, she went inside to talk to the staff, telling them that one of their employees had just given the keys to the wrong person. Now, here's the thing. I went with the person I was talking about through that car wash process more than once. And she had a receipt that said on it that she had paid for the services. So when she pulled it into a bay, she would show the receipt to the guy to let him know what to do with the car. And then she handed him the keys, but she kept the receipt. So when she walked back over when the car was done, she'd show the receipt and the guy'd hand her the keys. And that's how the process, I suspect, is supposed to work. So she told them that one of their employees had given the keys to the wrong person, and the lady that was at the customer service went up to the guy who was cleaning my car and asked where my car was. And he just stood there. So police were called. She filed a police report. Now, she says that she has not seen the footage of the incident herself, but officers told her that surveillance video shows a person with a hat, glasses, and face mask getting into her vehicle and driving away. And of course, in this day and age, you can walk around with a face mask on and people go, "Oh, that's normal." So they're not going to probably be able to identify that person very well. Now, she says she's not even sure what to think now because she wonders how the car wash could have made such a mistake. They didn't check for a claim ticket. They didn't check for any of that. This should never have happened. But regardless of what happened, the error will cost her thousands of dollars. She's now got to get a new car. And her insurance apparently only pay a small amount on this. I was almost done paying off my car, and now I have to start all over. ABC 7 News spoke with staff inside Autopia Car Wash on Saturday afternoon, but they said that none of the employees who were working at the time when the car was stolen were present. So in other words, we'd like to have someone talk to you, but no one here knows what happened because none of those people are here right now. So for now, the woman is taking it day by day, but she is, of course, trying to get the word out to warn others to be careful, to ensure the same thing doesn't potentially happen to them. I don't think I could ever go to one of these places again. Definitely not Autopia. Honestly, any of those, I think I'm going to be nervous about it forever. And this raises all kinds of questions. I seem to recall in the original movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, not the remake, in the original movie, it's much better than the remake, that there was an incident at a car wash. But of course, that's the guy in the movie that we're kind of rooting for, so that's okay for him to do it. It's a movie. It's not real life. But the interesting thing is, car washes are almost a culture unto themselves. And there's always weird stories that pop up about car washes. And so I can tell you that for a while in the news media in southeastern Michigan, every now and then somebody would complain about a car wash, that it was the type where the car would go through the car wash, but you would get out and walk inside the building and go back out and get back in your car. And a worker would jump into your car, and while it's going down the line, would clean the inside of the car. And the story was that people would complain that they'd get back in their car and they'd drive away, and they noticed that things were missing from their car. And so this is before GoPro cameras existed, but I remember news stations planting hidden cameras inside cars and pointing them at the ashtrays, because a lot of people put money in ashtrays. And so a lot of times the workers would clean the ashtrays by dumping the money out and keeping it. And so a news station would plant the camera in the car, put a bunch of money in the ashtray, and probably put some expensive stuff elsewhere around just to see, how far this will go. And the person who drives the car in gets out, the worker jumps in, and then the person gets back in their car. And of course, the stuff's missing from the ashtray, and the other stuff's missing from the little spot here, and they got it all on camera. And then they go back and show the footage to the car wash place, and they're like, this has never happened before. This must be the first time it's ever happened. And by the way, we're not even sure if that video hasn't been doctored. When, of course, the news station says, well, we've gotten dozens of complaints about this. Obviously it's happening. And so, some people would say, gee, maybe you shouldn't leave cash laying out in your car. I'll tell you right now that I'm one of the people who throws change in my ashtray. In fact, I suspect many people nowadays aren't even sure that it's called an ashtray. They might call it something different in this day and age, kind of like a cigarette lighter. They don't call them that anymore with the dash hole where you plug your stuff in, okay? So the point is that if I go through a drive-through, for instance, and they hand me 37 cents and change, I'm not going to put it in my pants pocket because, number one, it's awkward. Number two, it'll probably fall right out and get underneath the seat. So I fill my ashtray up with change. And if my ashtray gets completely filled with change, I eventually dump it out. And I have change jars, and I throw the change in there. And then, of course, when I go to the quarter car wash, I pull the quarters out. Another story altogether. But the point is that if I went to a car wash where that was going to have somebody in the car go through the line with my car, I'd probably grab the thing and just carry it out with me, because in at least two of my vehicles, that thing will come out if I pull it. But I'm not that worried about it, but I also don't go through those kinds of car washes. I just don't do it because I've got two Explorers. I'm not even sure if they fit through car washes like that. And I ain't taking my Viper through a car wash. It drags it through by the front wheels. So crazy story, though, because here they just handed the car to somebody else. And now people will ask, because I am an attorney, Steve, is there any potential problem with the car wash legally? And the answer, of course, is yes. Yes. Because you understand that when you hand the keys of your car to somebody and they are entrusted with the car, they got to take care of it and use, due care until they relinquish control of the car back to you. And if they relinquish the car to somebody else negligently, they would be on the hook for that negligence. And some people could argue and say, well, gee, if they negligently gave this woman's car away, isn't that on them? So when she says that her insurance company will only pay for part of this, it might be that she needs to have an attorney look into this and go, gee, what about the car wash? Because you got to think they'd have insurance, wouldn't they? And wouldn't their insurance cover stuff like negligence of workers? Seems like it ought to. But we'll see what happens. As of right now, no mention of a lawsuit against the car wash. But ABC 7 News reports it out of San Francisco, KGO. Tim Johns wrote it. Woman's vehicle stolen from Concord Car Wash after employee gives keys to wrong person. And I got a new shirt. I'll stand up in a second and show it to you. Just to let you know, this is a size 3X. I tell people to send me a size 2X, but the gentleman who sent this to me said, Steve, I think you need a 3X because the 2X looked small to me. So I'm not going to second guess that. But I had to call the shirt up because it is a really cool shirt. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. There's one true superpower amongst humans, and that is being funny. People treat you differently if you can make them laugh.